Hello and welcome back to Arsenal Unfiltered. My name's Mark and I wasn't expecting to be on a podcast today. The original plan was do a podcast about how to play without Bukayo Saka and then do a preview and a review of the Bournemouth game, giving 3 podcasts this week. But this is a new podcast. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. So I've decided to jump on and do another one. If you are coming and joining us on Arsenal Unfiltered and you've just found us, like I say, we are a new podcast, so I would really appreciate anyone that fancies dropping a follow. That would be amazing. But otherwise, let's get straight on with today's topic, and that is reviewing how our new signings have done so far this year. So we have had 2 international breaks now. They're basically over, so we're a little way into the season, and I think we know a little bit about our new signings now, and I want to give everyone a rating, all of our new signings a rating moving forward. You know, how have they done so far, and what might we expect from them? Now, for the purposes of this pod, David Raya, not a new signing. We're not going to talk about him because we had him on loan, so he's technically, by the financial books, he's a new signing, but we've seen him for well over a year now. I'm also not going to talk about Tommy Setford or Lucas Nygaard. Young keepers, we've not seen them. Signed for £1 million on a free transfer. So we're going to be talking Ricardo Calafiori, Mikel Merino and Jurrien Sterling. And one thing I am going to do as well, because I think he deserves it, is I'm going to talk about Jurrien Timber as well. He is the like a new signing cliche, because we basically saw probably the sum total of 180 minutes from him last season when he was legitimately a new signing. So we are going to feature him today as if he is a new signing. But there's only one place to start really for me, and that is the most handsome man, the new most handsome man at the club, Ricardo Calafiori. And I think Ricardo Calafiori is probably our most successful signing of this summer so far. I'd love to be proved wrong. I'd love for Mikel Merino to come into the team and absolutely dominate and make Ricardo Calafiori's performances seem, normal. That would be great. But we haven't seen too much of Mikel Merino yet. And I think Ricardo Calafiori has been incredible. Obviously, the goal against City was the highlight for me. He was brilliant in that game, so combative, but the finish was just ridiculous from so far out, and such a, people say the cultured finish, the finesse shot on FIFA. It was something else. But the thing that has struck me so much about Ricardo Calafiori, watching him as an Arsenal fan, he is so front-footed. And this is something that, you can see in the Arsenal kind of method of how we play. Now, ignore that week where we played Spurs, Atalanta and City. We know that's not how we tend to play, but actually we just had to adapt that week, right? And we played a lot deeper. Normally, you will see Gabriel and Saliba deep into the opposition half. Gabriel hunts people sometimes on the edge of the opposition box. That's how aggressive he is. That's how high he is. Saliba kind of stays in behind and sweeps, but he's still so high. Ben White can operate high, and we haven't really had that at left back for, well, basically since Mikel Arteta came in. Zinchenko was obviously the guy, but he always seemed to get caught out defending that high. Was never able to marshal his man that high up the pitch. I think we've all got worries about Zinchenko defensively, and that's another pod in itself. But now we've got Ricardo Calafiori. We can defend so high across the whole of that back line because Calafiori is comfortable doing it. Saliba's comfortable doing it. Gabriel is more than comfortable doing it. And Ben White or Jurrien Timber, whoever's playing at right back, they can also do it. And it gives us that opportunity to trap teams in their own half. That's where Mikel Arteta wants to play his football, in the opposition team's half. And Ricardo Calafiori, by being that final piece in that defensive jigsaw, has allowed us to do that. He is so aggressive. And one thing he does brilliantly, and it's a skill that Gabriel has as well. If he's defending high, I've seen him, numerous times in the games. The right winger receives the ball. He doesn't allow him to turn. does not allow him to turn, keeps him facing the wrong way for the opposition, obviously back at the opposition goal. He's incredible at that, same as Gabriel. Now, I've started on a lot of positives here. The goal, the way he defends front-footed. There is that big issue. We've seen him a couple of times, and it happened in the Southampton game against Tyler Dibbling. Couple of times, Hakimi in the PSG game as well, right, where we've watched him running back with another player, and I think every Arsenal fan has gone, oh no, maybe he's not quite as well-rounded and perfect as we think he is, because let's be honest, it does look like he lacks a yard of recovery pace. That's just, that's brutal honesty. He's been done a couple of times now. We know that Riccardo Calafiori, when he was younger, I think when he was 16 actually, had a horrific knee injury. So it's difficult. He had that horrific knee injury. He had a small injury when he came to us as well. Is he not quite there yet? And I'm talking long-term and short-term physical development. Is he not quite 100% sharp? And he's 22, right? And he had a big injury in the middle of, when he should be developing all of his speed, all of his explosiveness. Is he a year or two behind people in development? And actually, he's going to get to that place where he's got the electric recovery pace that we've seen from, William Saliba and Jurrien Timber at times as well. He's a quick boy. I think that's the one question mark. However, I don't think you can fault Riccardo Calafiori too much, and for that reason, he would get an 8 out of 10 from me for his start at Arsenal, and that goal at City, that could have got a 10 out of 10 all on its own. But be fair, we're going to give Riccardo Calafiori an 8 out of 10. The next player I want to talk about is Raheem Sterling. So we've not seen a huge amount of Raheem Sterling. He is obviously on loan from Chelsea. We saw him primarily in the Bolton game in the League Cup. He started that game. We also saw him start the Southampton game, if I'm not mistaken. And I think realistically, we started on a real positive for Riccardo Calafiori. Unfortunately, we're going to start on a negative for Raheem Sterling. I think he was caught out way too easily for that Southampton goal. And whilst he was impressive in the League Cup, it is just Bolton. It's a League One team, and you want to see that. You want to see, no matter who the opposition is, if you give a player a chance, they go out and take it. And Raheem Sterling absolutely did that, played really well in that game. But we need a bit more from him, and I think he was a little bit absent in the Southampton game, made that mistake, he was hauled off, Gabriel Martinelli came on, and the game changed. The game changed completely. And let's be honest, Raheem Sterling is not what he was. When he was at Man City, he was... you could argue that for a brief period he was a world-class player. Not in terms of his technical ability, however, in terms of his output, there was a real level to it. We've not seen that level of output for a long time now. We've not seen it. So why is he at Arsenal? Why did we get him? Well, it's clear, isn't it? It's cover. He's a squad player. He's not here to be the guy. Bukayo Saka is the guy, Gabriel Martinelli is the guy, Raheem Sterling is the experienced head behind them. We have got some other options in the wide areas. We've got Gabriel Jesus, who I spoke about on the Bukayo Saka podcast. He can play in those wide positions, and I'd love to see Gabriel Jesus play on the right if Bukayo Saka is not fit for Saturday's game against Bournemouth, which seems harsh to Raheem Sterling because he was brought in for this cover. However, I think there must have been that conversation with Mikel Arteta and Raheem Sterling. They know each other well, and Raheem Sterling is not blind. He will have seen the numbers that Bukayo Saka has been putting out over the last 2, 3, 4 years. He will have seen how explosive and brilliant Gabriel Martinelli can be. I don't think he's a stupid guy. I don't think he's turned up at Arsenal thinking, I'm going to take that shirt off Bukayo Saka. I'm going to take that shirt off Gabriel Martinelli. I think he knows his role. So we've got to assess him as a squad player. We've got to assess him like that. Now, what do we want squad players for? Well, we want them to come in and do a job in the cup. He's done that. He did a great job in the Bolton game. We want to be able to rotate for kind of lower Premier League teams. And that's where, he fell a bit short. I think he was poor in that Southampton game. And ultimately, he was hauled because he made a mistake. So, whereas Ricardo Calafiori got a very positive rating from me, I'm going to give Jurrien Sterling a 6 out of 10 for his start to life at Arsenal. Now, that, I want to caveat that with, I think he's a very clever, very shrewd signing, and I think that rating can only go up through the year, right? I think he will score goals. I think he will be effective from the bench when he's up to speed with, one, physically, and two, how Arsenal want him to play, because it's a very different system than the system he's been playing at Chelsea, right? So I personally think that rating will only go up. But rating him on what we've seen, if 5 is bang average, I think we can say, thanks to his contributions at Bolton, he's just a little bit above that. But nothing special, and question marks following the Southampton performance. So 6 out of 10 for Raheem Sterling. And then we move on to the cliche, Jurrien Timber, the like a new signing. Obviously, we signed him last summer, but we've only really started to properly see him this year because of that ACL he suffered against Nottingham Forest in the first game of last year. And what a player this bloke is. What a player. I mean, I watched Ben White for 2 years and thought this guy is another level. Ben White has been so good for Arsenal Football Club, so consistent, brilliant on the ball, fantastic link up with Ødegaard and Bukayo Saka in that right hand side pod. He is so good and he does the basics so well, better than anyone in the team, I would say, which is a big thing to say. But Ben White is Mr. Reliable, and now I'm sat here thinking, how does he get back in the team when he's fit? Genuinely. Ricardo Calafiori's been brilliant, but Jurrien Timber, when he's gone to right back, has maybe been even better. I can't believe it. I can't believe that we, as Arsenal fans, we are sat here thinking, how does Ben White get back in our team? After everything we've watched since Ben White joined us for £50 million, I can't believe there is a player that is rivalling him. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like we've gone out and spent 70 million on a new right back. We've brought Jurrien Timber for around 30 million pounds, I think, or euros. Not sure. Should have researched that before the pod. But a modest amount of money in Premier League terms. And I'm amazed that we are suddenly in this position because this guy is so good. And I've been on FBref because I'm a podcast host of a football podcast, and that's the nice cliche thing to do. And I've looked at one of his stats, and I've looked at all of his stats, but one stat has blown my mind. Jurrien Timber is in the 95th percentile for successful take-ons against fullbacks over the last 365 days. Now, bear in mind, he's only played 587 minutes in that time. However, that's incredible. 95th percentile, 1.53 successful take-ons per 90, and I think back very, very quickly. The moment that this stat brought out in my mind is where he whips the ball off Bradley Barcola in the PSG game and strides out of the box like there wasn't another PSG player anywhere near him. There was, by the way, there was about 3 all surrounding him and just looking at him, thinking, we're powerless to resist this bloke. And I think Arsenal fans are powerless to resist Jurrien Timber. He has been a revelation, both defensively and on the ball. I mean, he Saliba-esque touches at times on the ball, which has been brilliant. It's been a brilliant watch. Whereas Calafiori, there's questions about him running backwards. Raheem Sterling, is he going to have the output we need? Merino, who we'll come on to in a second, we've not seen him, he's not been fit. Jurrien Timber this year has been, basically faultless. And I genuinely, I'm racking my brains right now. I remember him losing the ball in one game, but that was a minor moment. There have been no real big clangers. There's been no moments where I've thought, this guy needs a few more months to settle in, like we've seen with the others and we've already discussed with the others. So for me, it's a 9 out of 10 for Jurrien Timber. Absolutely brilliant player. Top class, and I cannot believe we are sat here talking about someone who might rival Ben White at the Arsenal right back spot. Can't believe it, because Ben White is just that good. And finally, Merino. We've barely seen him, haven't we? Really tough to judge Merino. Gabriel landed on him in his first training session, hurt his shoulder, 2 months out. We've not seen Merino, and we're all gutted about that, because he was the mythical left 8. He was the answer to the problem that we had last year. We finally replaced Granit Xhaka. Everything is going to be A-OK, and Gabriel Martinelli will be unlocked by this player. And by the way, he is an absolute monster, so we're going to score at least 2 or 3 goals from corners every game. Well, we haven't seen that, have we? Unfortunately, because he's just not been there. Now, we've had 2 cameos so far. We haven't seen him start a game. Very difficult to judge him on that. Very, very... It's similar to Raheem Sterling. We haven't seen him much. But what we have seen, mixed, I think in his short time at the club, he has been built up, I should say, as... a real potential to help us break that glass ceiling. Is he the guy that's going to push us through? We just don't know. Now, I'm just trying to pull up some stats for him here, because he is obviously going to be the kind of player whose stats are quite tremendous. In the past 365 days in comparison to other midfielders in the men's Big 5 leagues, his stats are unbelievable. 99th percentile for aerial duels won. 97th percentile for non-penalty goals. That's one I wasn't expecting. That is one I was not expecting. I'm presuming it's midfielders in his sort of similar position, not attacking midfielders or wide players as well. I'm presuming they will fall into the forward category. And touches in the attacking penalty area, 96th percentile, and I think that's the one that Mikel Arteta will be wanting to exploit as much as possible. Getting that man arriving at the back post more and more often to get on the end, on the left side, to get on the end of Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka deliveries, that could be the key. That could be the 5 goals we need to get past City. That could be the 5 goals we need to win the league. And I think Mikel Merino could be that guy. You've got to hope he is that guy, because we've kind of banked on him. We've kind of gone for it fairly big, for Mikel Merino. We really have pushed to get that signing over the line, and I think it will be exciting when we really have him, right? But we just haven't seen enough of him. We've seen a little bit in the Champions League. We've seen a little bit in the Premier League. I think it's been about half an hour cameo each. But unfortunately, I don't feel I can rank him. So I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. The 5 out of 10 is, he's done really nothing because we haven't seen him. I'm really excited about Mikel Merino. I think what he might bring is exactly what we need. But it is just a might at the moment. It is just a might. And if we can unlock him, if we can find that player who is going to make that left 8 position his, and if we can find someone who just finishes that nearly perfect midfield alongside Rice and Odegaard, I will be absolutely delighted. But we don't have that right now. So that's the ratings, guys. Apologies if that felt a bit clunky. I'm really learning as I go. I'm really enjoying doing Arsenal Unfiltered for you. I hope anyone who is out there that is listening, might be listening, is enjoying it. If you are listening, give us a follow. I'm going to be producing as much content as I can, and learning along the way as I go. It's been really fun to review the new signings today. And remember, there'll be a preview podcast around the Bournemouth game on Friday, and a review either Saturday evening or Sunday morning, depending on schedules and time scales. So that's the new signings rankings done. We've given Ricardo Calafiori an 8, Raheem Sterling a 6, Jurrien Timber, like a new signing, not a new signing, Jurrien Timber a 9, and Mikel Merino, who we haven't seen, the mystery man, a 5, which we really hope will be a 9 or a 10 by the end of the year. Like I say, follow along if you've enjoyed today. We'll be doing the Bournemouth game as much as we can over the weekend. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. My name is Mark, and this is Arsenal Unfiltered.